call today. No special guests, but we are going to give an update on Origin token, buyback, staking rates, which you can follow along with on our website at originprotocol.com/OGN. But that's where we're going to start. Actually, before that, we'll probably have one announcement coming from Raphael about a partnership with Lido that we announced last week. And then after that, we'll get into some engineering updates, some content around Borrow Booster, as well as the ARM. And then we'll talk about some new ecosystem integrations that Peter has been working on, where you can earn yield on some of our products through Pendle and a few other markets, as well as maybe some treasuries that have been onboarding our products lately. But let's start with announcements. Raphael, we had a really big one last week with Lido. Do you want to give an overview of what that partnership looks like in case anybody in the chat here has missed that?
Yeah, sure. I think this is something that we have been working together with them for a very long time to make this happen. But for those who didn't see it yet, the Lido actually deployed liquidity on ARM. And this is very cool because it actually shows everyone like how good ARM is for their LSTs, no matter like who they are. And having that as one of the biggest LSTs of Ethereum is a very good validation for the product that we have built. So this is very exciting, and I was very happy to see that. But yeah, like I think there's more that we can discuss a little bit on the after the updates. Or maybe we can discuss it here, right? I don't know, Ryan, how you want to do it.
Okay, yeah, we can probably discuss it more in the engineering updates, but really exciting news for the ARM. I'm curious what you're thinking about in terms of ARM expansion. Over the past couple months, ARM TVL on the staked ETH ARM has more than doubled. I think last time I checked, we were above $20 million deposited. And you mentioned that this partnership with Lido is good validation for other protocols to potentially have ARMs for other assets. So I'm curious how you're thinking about this as far as ARM expansion. Are we doubling down on the staked ETH ARM at the same time that we're potentially considering other ARMs? I know that Peter's been working hard on getting ARM tokens integrated on DeFi. He'll probably mention that Pendle market. But how are you looking at this? What's next for the ARM?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of like good positions right now where one is the front that Peter is working on, which is like, okay, I have the ARM token. What can I do with it? It's earning like a very decent yield and similar to LST, the risk profile. So could I just like, I don't know, go to a money market or Pendle, right? Like, and I think that's what we're working on right now. But there is the other part about expansion, which is like, what if I want to have like a different token, which is a token that maybe drifts a little bit more from the value, but have like, I don't know, doesn't have much capacity as Lido in trading volume, but there's a very interesting position there. So I think we're definitely exploring building more ARMs, just like we have for OS, but on Ethereum and with other LSTs. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on. But yeah, does it answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you for that overview. And if you guys want to check out the metrics on the ARM, you can do so at analytics.originprotocol.com. We've had pretty strong yield lately. We've outperformed other liquid staking tokens. And like I mentioned, we've been growing that TVL pretty substantially over the past few months with some partnerships, with some institutional allocations from MEV Capital. And this all really started when we started routing idle liquidity to Morpho. So that was a really nice efficiency improvement. Before that, APYs were a bit more volatile. Now there's pretty consistent yield coming from the ARM. So that's good to see. You can check that all out on our analytics page. But next up, I want to talk a little bit about Origin token and OGN. As most of you probably know, all fees now coming from Origin Protocol's products are being routed to OGN buybacks, which has substantially increased the staking rates, the amount of OGN locked, and all of the other metrics regarding OGN. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Micah to give an overview of what's happened over the past month with OGN.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it's been another great month with a lot of OGN staking and OGN buybacks happening on a very regular basis. You can see them on our OGN alerts account on X and also the buybacks channel in Discord. In September, we bought over 6.8 million OGN back from the open market. That happens through CowSwap, and that equates to over 1% of the circulating supply. So it's really cool to see the impact that that's having. The amount of OGN locked is almost 40% at 39.35%. And we're seeing, more and more people lock OGN in order to get those staking rewards that you mentioned are powered directly by the protocol revenue, the fees generated by all of our products. Most of those fees come from, I say most, the largest contributor to those fees is OETH, our flagship LST. A significant portion comes from Super OETH, and then, of course, all of our other products, OUSD, OS, the ARM, and on down the list. All of the fees generated from those products go directly to those buybacks, which then the OGN stakers get a piece of. One other thing that I wanted to flag is that when we circulated this proposal back in early part of the summer to not only use those fees for OGN buybacks, but also the assets that we had been accumulating over many years from prior fees, airdrops, different assets that we'd been accumulating in the DAO. The value of those assets at the time of that proposal was $3 million. And today, after several months of aggressive buybacks, we still have over $3 million worth of assets powering buybacks beyond the fees that are generated. So that's a reflection of a couple of things. One, the growth in our fees that are conducting these buybacks, and also the increased value of those assets that we had been accumulating. So all that to say that the future is bright for buybacks. They will continue in perpetuity and continue to grow if the current trends continue.
Thank you, Micah. I also wanted to call out the staking rates on XOGN. We talk a lot about max locked OGN and what it's earning. I have it pulled up here on the Origin dApp, and I'll send the link right now. The current variable APY on max locked XOGN is 41%. But what I didn't realize for a while is you can actually get really high APYs even at 1 to 2 month locks. So if you believe the market cycle is ending Q4, Q1, and you're not confident to lock for a complete year, you don't have to, and you can still earn really strong APYs. So something that we haven't talked too much about, but I did want to call out, it looks like you can earn 30.1% APY if you're only locking for 1 month. So really strong APYs across the board, all funded by buybacks, going really smoothly. And excited to see that we have that treasury of over $3 million still allocated to buybacks after, what's it been now, 3 to 4 months of consistent buybacks, and we barely made a dent. So really awesome to see.
Agreed. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is to talk through some engineering updates. We already talked about the Staked ETH ARM and the Lido partnership, but I want to hand it back over to Raphael to talk a little bit about Borrow Booster. We launched our first market on Morpho using Borrow Booster a couple of weeks ago with Super OETH, and we have another one upcoming on Ethereum mainnet. We've seen some nice traction here, and there's a really interesting market dynamic. So I'll let Raphael talk about it, but something I've been keeping my eye on lately.
Yes, thanks, Ryan. I'm very excited about this market because it gives a completely new dynamic on how people have been using these markets. So to explain a little bit better, right? What we are doing right now on Morpho with Super OETH B and USDC is that whenever you deposit your collateral, which is Super OETH B, this collateral doesn't increase in value anymore. So it just behaves like a standard ETH, and then you can use that to borrow USDC. So you can imagine this is a market that you compete, I don't know, WAF and USDC, right? What is very interesting here is that 100% of the collateral, which is with the super OEF being this market, is forwarding the yield to incentivize the borrow rates. And this is something very new, right? Because we're using most of, like, all of the collateral to yield and incentivize the borrow rate, which actually makes the market. So this is like a very new dynamic, because what previously was happening, like in some of these, in some of the older markets, is that you have your collateral, they are growing, like let's say like that, if you have a wrapped LST, but the people who are using the market the most are not the one getting incentivized the most. And in this new dynamic, it completely changed that. So now we're incentivizing the people who takes the highest risk and the people who actually make the market more attractive for I don't know, curators from USDC side to supply the token. So it's a very new one. It's we have been experimenting on it. It has been growing in a good pace. And as you hinted, we are working on launching that on mainnet as well. So this is going to be very interesting to see.
Thanks, Raphael. And for those of you interested in checking out that Borrow Booster market, I did paste the link in the chat so you can check it out on Morpho. We did just get more liquidity, I think, this morning. So it looks like there's about $600,000 of total liquidity, and the market size is quickly approaching $1 million. But this liquidity has been getting eaten up quite fast. The incentives coming from Super OETH right now are around 10% on that borrow rate. So the native borrow rate is 6%, which is what you would be paying to take out USDC loans. But because of those incentives coming from Super OETH staking rewards, it's actually negative 4.5% right now. So we're seeing people on this market actually getting paid to borrow USDC, which is a super cool dynamic. And it's pretty much been negative since we've launched the market, which has been really cool to see. Again, if you want to check it out, I sent the link in the Discord chat. All right. Before we move on to Peter and ecosystem integrations, Raphael, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of product development or engineering?
No, I think this is it. Like, I think that only the next thing that is like, it has been a long amount of work is the OEF upgrade that we are working on right now. I think that deserves like maybe like a full hour call on this topic, but I think some like good content marketing will be happening at that time. But to give a TLDR on it, we're going to start using Merkle proofs to do a validation of the funds that we have from the validators. And this completely removes the usage of Oracle. And it also puts us into the new staking from the Pactra upgrade that will allows us to do partial withdrawals as well. So it's going to be a very, very, very cool improvement that we're going to do. And all the yield now, instead of like waiting for the sweeping time, it will be automatically compounded. So yeah, it's going to be a very cool work there.
Yeah, I'm excited to start talking more about that upgrade. It will definitely make Origin Ether a really unique LST. And we get people asking all the time in our Discord, what are we doing to onboard institutions to OETH? And I think this is a great opportunity to do that with this upgrade, really improving security, making OETH unique, and then also giving us some capital efficiency improvements over other LSTs. So really excited to get that rolled out, something really unique and innovative that we've been working on for the past couple months.
Yeah, and Ryan, just to add on that, we're also building like a small service that, especially with this institutional kind of mindset, where anyone that wants to run that service can actually be put in the proofs themselves. So they don't need Origin to actually update the proofs of the validators, which is really cool.
Interesting. Well, more on that to come probably within the next few weeks here. We'll be making a big announcement on these staking improvements, but it's been a long time coming and some really big innovations coming from the Origin team. So excited to get the word out on that really soon here. All right, next up, we want to talk a bit about some of our ecosystem integrations, some yield opportunities to earn, as well as some protocols allocating to our products. So I'll let Peter take the floor and talk about some updates over the past few weeks.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I have a handful of integration updates to share for ARM and Super OETH and OETH and OS and OUSD. So I guess I'll start at the top and go down the list here. So starting with ARM, last week via the Equilibria vote market, we did some test bribes with, I think it was $100 and then maybe again with $1,000 to try and drive some more liquidity to the Lido ARM Pendle market. Because with more liquidity in that market, users will be able to take larger positions in PT and YT separately to long the ARM yield instead of having to take them together as an LP or just as a PT holder. The test bribes made the pool's liquidity increase to about $250,000, but unfortunately that was short-lived. It was a bit down from that now. So I'll probably have to do some more testing with the incentives to see maybe what the sweet spot is between maybe Equilibria and PenPy to make the liquidity more sticky. But the ARM pool on Pendle does have about $190,000 right now in it, which is more than there was previously. So that's good. Also on the topic of ARM, SummerFi passed a proposal vote to onboard the Lido ARM to one of their AI-managed vaults. It passed the vote on September 21st and executed the proposal action on chain the morning of the 23rd, which then passed the time lock later that Thursday morning. I think the vault started streaming ETH to the ARM on Wednesday, October 1st, where 156 ETH was rebalanced into the strategy. And then just 3 days ago, an additional 141 ETH was streamed to the ARM strategy there, which is nice to see. Block Analytica set the ARM strategy on Summer to a cap of 510 ETH, which I imagine will hit fairly quickly if the ARM continues to be a more profitable strategy for Summer than the other yield strategies they have integrated, which right now it is on the higher end. And we're already more than halfway up to that cap, which is nice to see. Also on the topic of the Lido ARM, Yo.xyz, which is another DeFi yield optimizer, and this one is also the same team that runs Exponential Fi. They added support for the Lido ARM as well. Yo.xyz works very similar to Summer in a lot of ways, in that liquidity is rebalanced between their different whitelisted strategies. And it looks like the ARM is currently being allocated just under 10%, 9.88% of the vault's ETH, which comes out to being just under 1,000 ETH. I think it's right about maybe 990. I think Yo is actually a multi-chain vault, which is interesting to see because Super OETH is also being allocated some ETH with that vault. Also on the topic of Super OETH, Goo Money will be making a Super OETH allocation very soon. Goo is a new project that we've been speaking to for a few weeks now, and they are launching a Bitcoin product soon. We have a commitment from them to put a minimum of 5% of their treasury into Super OETH. The actual number might vary, but I think it will be around 126 ETH right now. We also have some whitelist spots to distribute soon to OGN and Super OETH holders for the Genesis event for Goo Money. So stay tuned for that. Then on OETH, there's one small integration to share. Term Finance added support for wrapped OETH recently. Term operates a bit differently from most other DeFi money markets in that with Term, you are locked into your position for a set term, and the rates won't change during those weeks. Whereas with most other money markets, they use variable rates that can change throughout the week or even throughout the day based on the activity of others. So at the moment, Term deploys new markets by request. So if anyone listening to this is interested, let us know and we can help facilitate that. On OS, there's a few integrations to share. There's a new vault that was launched by the Series team, I think. The Series vault essentially takes wrapped OS, it deposits it into Pendle, then takes the Pendle PT token and uses it as collateral on Silo to borrow S, which it then takes and deposits into OS, which is then wrapped, and the entire process is repeated 4 times. So using that vault right now with the 4x loop gets you a nice APY of 19.17%, and you'll get some Silo points on top. So check that out. Then there's also the Soneta integration for OS. Soneta is a CDP-style money market. It is also a fork of Liquidity. And they recently had their official launch with wrapped OS as a collateral option. On Soneta, you can borrow the one stablecoin manually at rates for as low as 0.5%, or if you want it managed by an interest rate manager, then they think the rate starts at 3% for borrowing. The one token can then be used in DeFi to earn some different yields, or it can be staked in one of these Soneta stability pools to earn fees from borrowers. And also, by doing that, I think you can buy collateral liquidation prices. I also think Soneta has an airdrop coming soon, so if you want to part of that airdrop, then maybe start trying out Soneta. Lastly, on OS, Fly.trade integrated the OS ARM. Fly is the company previously known as Magpie. And this integration is nice because 100% of the ARM's revenue is still going to OGN stakers. And so by the ARM seeing more volume, that should lead to more revenue that will come back to OGN. On OUSD, there's just one quick update, and that is that you can now find Origin and OUSD live on rwa.xyz, which is a platform, a data platform for tokenized real-world assets, and I believe it's used by institutions and regulators, investors, and other asset issuers to analyze different assets across all major public blockchains. So you can now find Origin alongside the other major stablecoin issuers like Circle, Tether, Athena, Binance, Paxos, PayPal, and Sky. So check it out. There's a lot of interesting data on there. I think that's all I have. I'll drop the link to rwa.xyz in the chat.
Good stuff. Thank you, Peter. I wanted to talk just briefly about a couple of these integrations that you mentioned, starting with Yo Protocol. I'm going to send the link in the chat, but we've been working with them for a while. They were sort of a smaller protocol when we started integrating with Yo. If you guys want to check them out on Twitter, they have a really clean handle. It's just @yield. But they've been growing a lot, and Origin is the top 2 allocations right now on their ETH vault, which is really cool to see. The top one is Super ETH with almost 12% allocated, and then it's the staked ETH ARM, which is almost 10% allocated. So just between allocations, that's got to be close to $10 million allocated to Origin products. So that's really cool to see. I don't know the exact number, but it looks like the ETH vault has almost $50 million deposited, and 20% of that is Origin products. So keeping an eye on that, going to hopefully continue its growth and then continue routing TVL to Origin. And then the other one I wanted to call out, I know I've talked about this quite a bit, but that Pendle market, good to see that TVL has increased. And when you're longing yield on the ARM vault, essentially what you're doing is taking a bet that staked ETH will see some type of volatility. So really cool, unique Pendle market. You mentioned that there's more TVL now. Do we have any plans to continue incentives there, Peter? Do we know about that yet?
I think it's worth continuing to experiment with incentives there. I think I mentioned earlier during this call that the liquidity that came from the incentives ended up not being completely sticky. So I think we might need to maybe play around with it a bit to find the sweet spot of how much to incentivize and whether to do it on Equilibria or PenPy. But I think it's worth doing some more incentives there to try and increase the amount of available liquidity on Pendle for the ARM.
Okay, well, as soon as we know, I will announce that here on Discord and on X. But shorter community call today. We got through everything already, so we're going to end it a little bit early here. But be sure to follow along with OGN. We have the links in the chat, as well as some of our new integrations, tons of different places to earn yield right now. But we'll be back here next month, first Monday of the month at 12 o'clock Eastern. I'll see you guys then. Thanks so much for joining.